sensation in our being at this point. When it is fully active, it can reflect the ability to perceive into different dimensions, just like an antenna on a radio. But since the consciousness on this planet and the level of, I would say, awareness on this planet is so low at this point, a lot of those abilities and functions within the human body have been shut down.
Hi there, Ann in Raleigh. You have a question or a comment for Alan?
I have both a comment and a question, Janice, and let me, like your previous caller, thank you for changing the conversation and bringing something at this consciousness level to us this morning.
Oh, you're quite... thank Anthony Amp Elmore.
All right.
All right.
All right, then. And Mr. Billups, it is a pleasure to hear you, and I do hear you. He that has ears, let them hear.
Well, I sure don't. I have ears, but I'm not hearing.
You hear him too, Janice.
Okay.
You hear him.
All right.
Your friend, Dr. Sabi, that you had on the show, is a good friend of mine.
Okay, good.
And Dr. Margaret Burroughs, Mr. Billups, is a Yoruba priestess.
Yes.
And, you know, she's been to Africa about 1,000 times, and they've made her a princess over there.
Okay.
And between Dr. Burroughs, Dr. Sabi, and my oldest son, they cured me of colon cancer.
Okay.
And the way that they did it was with the chanting, the Tai Chi, and with that Buddhist consciousness. And if you would repeat that phrase for Janice very slowly a couple of times,
okay,
her memory will be refreshed.
Okay.
That it was the chant that Tina Turner invoked,
yes,
that gave her the courage and the energy to leave Ike.
Right.
And where we are now in our consciousness as a village, African American people, we're beginning to hear people like you and understand that we need to go back to the basis of that Egyptian knowledge that we once controlled, commanded,
that's correct,
and owned. And we need to know that in our consciousness, that pineal gland will lead us to that knowledge. And everything that Mr. Billups is sharing with us, Janice, this is all you need to finish law school.
All right, thank you. But now, and no disrespect to Mr. Billups, Jesus is all I need. I said it, and we'll leave it right there. Charles in Southeast Memphis.
How you doing,
by the way, let me open up the phone lines. 525-33. No, actually, it's 535-9342. 535 WDIA. Some people want to know where Mr. Billups can be reached, and we certainly are going to talk about that. But he's going to give a free lecture tonight at 7:30 at the Howard Johnson Hotel on 1441 East Brooks Road, or you can call Anthony or Zuri Elmore at 452-5705. But I'll continue to give that out. But if you have any questions or comments, because certainly this is fascinating. And if I'm silent, it's not because I don't have anything to ask. It's that I want to ask the more pertinent questions because it's all so new to me. There you go, Charles. Welcome in.
How you doing, Janice?
Hi, Charles.
I heard that. I'm just like you. I'm confused. I mean, I'm listening to the show, and I'm trying to follow along, and I just heard the lady speak, highly, about this guy and about the practice that he does, but I'm still at a disadvantage. I'm complete, and I'm trying to, walk myself through this, but I'm completely lost. I'm completely lost. I'm just like you. I'm lost. So he's gonna have to break it down a little more because this is all new. I mean, this is the first time I ever heard of some type of
therapeutic touch.
Therapeutic touch. I never heard of, that. I'm not saying that it's not facts.
Right.
I'm just saying that I never heard of it. It's just all new. And when you think of therapeutic, you think about a masseuse or someone who massage you. And that's the limit I have ever heard about this. And it might be some legitimate backing behind it, but I'm just like you. I'm at a disadvantage all the way.
Okay. Thanks, Charles. And maybe Alan will...
yes.
Maybe Alan is saying, look, how much further do I have to explain this to you guys?
Anytime you want to understand a science or any type of a religious doctrine, what I use is what is termed the three proofs. The three proofs correspond to documentary proof, which every religion or every writing in history has documented about their particular teaching. Then you have what you call theoretical proof, and that's how you come together with your reasoning and your intellect to correspond the doctrine to what it is that you perceive in reality. From theoretical proof, you arrive at the most important and potent truth, which is actual proof. So actual proof surpasses both doctrine and theory. And most of the theories that most people have correspond to existences and things that cannot be proven theoretically in light of what we see around us or actually. So a lot of religious beliefs go into things that happen after life is over, and they tell you, well, when you die, you'll know. But see, you can never actually prove that or even demonstrate that to someone else. When you go into the three proofs, you have to be able to substantiate documentary proof about what it is you're saying, what history did this thing come from. And it's just like this river. If you're going to drink from a river, the contents of the river where you are aren't necessarily the same as the source. So if you believe a particular religious doctrine or anything of that nature, you have to understand that it has to be the same as it originated, or you're actually drinking something that has been added.
Okay, let me ask you this. So as a therapeutic therapist, do you work along with, in conjunction with medical professionals?
I'm a physical therapist, and I integrate this into my practice as a physical therapist.
Okay.
Because through my experience, through my actual proof in a therapeutic session, I found that the years of training and the medical experience that I had in certain facilities where I worked at, these techniques worked a lot more than the Western techniques that I was trained to use. And at the point where I was frustrated with using them, I said, well, let me try this since everything else hasn't worked. And I would find that people would do things that I couldn't understand. So through trial and error or actual proof, I was able to convince myself to say, hey, this needs more investigation. I need to see where is this going? Why am I always coming across situations where I find that when I do something very minor with these forms and techniques on someone who has a medical condition, why the results change a lot faster. And once I started understanding my basic science with the electromagnetic spectrum, light being a frequency of energy, I was able to see that, hey, this is actually an energy form that actually emits from the body, because illness is nothing other than an imbalance in the energy field itself. So these instruments and these different techniques used in the Western sciences actually from a proof standpoint are behind the energetic results. But because we're in a system and a political arrangement with the American Medical Association, we find that there are certain biases and prejudices against this form of medicine, because let's say all this stuff...
But if it works, why would there be bias or prejudice?
Well, first of all, you have people that have a lifestyle that's supported by the current medical system. And if you go into the scientific foundation for the current medical system, it's all founded on Newtonian physics, which says that your body is like a machine. It has parts, and if some part is bad, you just replace the part.
Right.
And if we can't get the part, you're just out of luck. Well, it just happens that when Einstein came around, his form of physics, Einstein's field theories superseded the Newtonian physics, which meant that there were energy fields that permeated physical reality, which accounted for a higher science, which began the atomic age. So because Einstein's form of physics was a lot more intricate and more defined than Newtonian physics, now medicine has to move into the area of the energy field to be able to encompass more of the misunderstandings that they have about the physical body now.
Okay, let me ask you this. So when you detect that there are areas that there are problems with within whatever certain parts of the body, do you at that is there a treatment for that? Do you in turn send them to a medical doctor to receive medicine, or do you prescribe to meditate, or what would be the actual I don't want to say antidote. What would be the actual solution to the problem?
Well, the main solution is the lifestyle. The lifestyle is basically the problem with the majority of the problems that are on the planet today, because of lack of awareness of self, lack of awareness of universal principles. We live in a way that brings us into a behavior that from the first place should not even exist. So it's just like walking cross country. You'll get there, But how many rivers and mountains do you got to cross? How many times you got to freeze at night just to get to another part of the country, when all of a sudden, if you understood that there were laws to be governing your life, or in relation to your life, you can actually exist on a different level without going through half of those problems in the first place. So, if you move into a brand new house without gas, electricity, all these different forms of power, you can live in that house. I mean, it'll be dark at night, it'll be cold in the winter, but you can still live in there. So what the energy science is the same relation to someone who finally, after 10 years living in a house without the use of their appliance because of the absence of energy, all of a sudden has the power turned on, the gas turned on. All of a sudden they have use of all these different aspects of their house, which makes it a lot more convenient and comfortable than to have your food spoiling every time you made it without refrigerating it. Now you have a lifestyle which is very convenient. You have all these problems eliminated as far as bacteria, lack of sight at night, running into walls, all these types of things. So understanding the energy field and the life sciences and the laws that permeate this dimension is the same analogy to someone who lives today in a dark house without power. Once you know these parts of your reality and you live in accordance with them, you'll avoid 99% of the problems that you see everybody facing right now.
535-9342, 526-1070. Ben in South Memphis coming to you next. Alan Billups, my very special guest. He's an energy healer, and that's our focus of conversation. He will be at the Howard Johnson Hotel tonight at 1441 East Brooks Road tonight. Free, absolutely free. He'll talk about it. 7:30 tonight, but you have the opportunity now to ask him some questions, because when we come back, hopefully we'll talk, we're going to focus in on auras. Aura. Can you see an aura around me?
Well, not right now.
You can't see my... Well, see, because I was reading that you can see them all the time. Some people can walk around seeing auras. I was just wondering what color I had around me. Anyway, we'll come back. And I don't know, I don't have no, I don't. I probably have a green aura. I'm blue. The wall. We'll be back. Ben, hold on. We're coming back with Alan Billups here on WDIA. You're chitty-chatting with Alan. Ben, I'll go to you. But I was chitty-chatting with Alan, and he gave me his card. And it has this crane on it and this Japanese writing. What is all of this?
What that is a card which embodies the Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. The Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra goes back to its origins in India over 3,000 years ago. It was the highest principle in the forms of Buddhism that Gautama taught. He taught Buddhism for some 50 years, but the capacity of his listener was probably about third grade level of intellect at that time in that part of the country. So what he did is he prepared his followers through parables and lessons over the course of some 40 years. So like first grade, third grade, fifth grade, 12th grade, college. And then he taught the higher principles, sort of like quantum physics. Mm-hmm. You can't teach quantum physics to a third grade class. You have to bring them up to par. So he taught the Lotus Sutra, and the title of the Lotus Sutra was Myoho Renge Kyo, which is on that card. Well, an enlightened sage named Nichiren was born in Japan in 1222, and he introduced the Lotus Sutra once again to the country of Japan in the 13th century. And he proclaimed that the word Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is the vibration or the original life consciousness, which is your ninth consciousness. And when you tap into that power source, you're able to align yourself with the phenomena expression of the universe as it manifests in what we call karma, or the law of cause and effect. You're standing where you are, or sitting where you are, or driving in the car where you are based on all the calls you've made since you woke up this morning. And where you are at 3 o'clock tomorrow is based on the calls you make from this moment until you arrive at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So at every moment, you're in a manifestation of this principle of cause and effect. So if you're suffering 1 minute, or if you're happy, or if you're sad, it's related to causes you've made in your past that manifest today. The causes you make today manifest as your future tomorrow. So Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is that universal law that permeates past, present, and future. So when you align yourself, or Nam, fuse yourself with that principle, Myoho Renge Kyo, you take on the same relationship as in divine will with the currents and direction of the universal law. So therefore you eliminate the friction or the suffering that manifests in your life because of that relationship, not only in awareness, but in action. So by chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you create the verbal cause to put your life in alignment.
What about just praying, Lord, help me?
Well, you can pray and you can believe anything you want, but just like I said, the person who steps out the window believed that gravity didn't work. But what happened to them? They fell on the ground with a broken back, or they were paralyzed just like that. So you can believe anything you want to believe, but if it's not in alignment with universal law, you're going to have problems believing that.
Ben in South Memphis, welcome in.
Yeah, hello, how you doing?
Hey, Ben.
I never consider myself a dumb person, but since I've listened to the show, I haven't understood a word. I feel so ignorant. I haven't understood a word since the opening theme song of your show. And and maybe this is some sort of an ancient technique that's been going on thousands of years. I don't know. But it sounds to me like it's got 3 6s written all over it.
Why you say that, Ben? 3 6s?
Oh, I don't mean no disrespect, but it just sounds spooky.
I would like to comment on 3 6s. 3 6s is actually the atomic number of carbon. Carbon has 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. So the color black is the foundation of the atomic elements of carbon. So when you're saying something is black, it actually has 3 6s in it because carbon is made up of those elements. So when you get into metaphysics, you'll find that when you start seeing numbers and saying things that sound superstitious, there were actually people who designed the teachings that most people follow in a way for where you to get lost in the understanding of what you say. So if you say 3 6s, you're only talking about the chemicals that compose the melanin in your body. So 3 6s is actually a very profound element that makes black people very special because carbon...
So, Alan, what you're saying and what Ben is saying, Ben says it sounds satanic to him because 3 6s, of course, and those of us who are Christian and believe that 3 6s represents the Antichrist. You're saying 3 6s is really just the carbon.
Carbon.
Heard that, Ben?
Life cannot exist without carbon.
Heard that, Ben?
That's life.
I heard it, but
Look it up.
Heard that?
I guess I got to stick with the Bible.
There you go, Ben.
Well, while you're at it, look in John chapter 10, verse 34 through 36, and read that, and then come back